Hi guys, this is my review for The Conjuring, the 2013 film directed by James Wan and starring Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, a duo who actually did this stuff for real back in the 70s and 80s and gained quite a lot of notoriety for it. I should just say though that even though I first saw this movie many years ago and a lot of its sequels in the years since, I've never had any interest in looking into the real life aspects of it. I mean, there are books and documentaries you could seek out about the real Warrens if you were so inclined, but that's not for me. I'm only interested in the movies, so I couldn't tell you how similar these investigations in the movies are to how they panned out in real life or how accurate the character portrayals are. So just to get that out of the way. Now, the plot for this particular investigation is that Roger and Carolyn Perron, a couple with 5 daughters, I know, moving into this new house in Harrisville, Rhode Island, and straight away they have to suffer all these hauntings and things going on, and they know they've got a big problem. So they get Ed and Lorraine in, and for the rest of the movie, it's about dealing with this problem, which eventually turns into more than just a haunting, but we'll come back to that. And that's the film. I mean, that's a very compressed version of the plot that I've given you there, but essentially that's what it is. I had a slight problem with the Perrons being able to afford this house. I mean, it's huge and it's got all these acres surrounding it. It looks like it cost about $3 million, which is crazy given the fact that we don't find out what Roger does for a living. His wife doesn't work at all, but I don't know, it just seems a bit off to me. If this was set in 2020, I'd be crying bullshit, but maybe in 1971, every man and his dog could afford a countryside manor. I don't know. I do like films that are set in the 70s, though. I've been saying for years, actually, that some of my favourite franchises, like Halloween and Friday the 13th, should reset back to the 70s and 80s, and you'd get a lot of the freshness back that way, but I digress. Now, one of the big criticisms about The Conjuring and its whole series is that it has an over-reliance on jump scares, supposedly. I've heard that a lot. And I guess it just depends what your tastes are, really. I don't personally mind jump scares. They kind of make me, if they get me, I tend to just smile and move on. But for some people, they're a real bugbear. I think when they do annoy me, it's when they feel unnecessary. So if there's a scene in a movie where, I don't know, a character's in a supermarket quite early on and a cat jumps out from behind the dog food, or something, that was an oxymoron, wasn't it? Then that's a completely pointless jump scare, and that would piss me off. But if it's actually later on in the part of the film where the terror is supposed to be happening, then by all means, throw those jump scares my way. I don't mind. And in The Conjuring, it only happens in those exact moments, so it doesn't annoy me at all. So I think it's a bit of an unfair criticism for this film. And it's not as if the whole film is peppered with just jump scares. There are plenty of really cleverly written scenes in this film that are just scary because they're scary, you know, and the tension rises gradually throughout this film in a really nice way. It starts out with just, you know, 1 or 2 things happening, like a picture falling off a wall early on, or a game of hide and seek ending with a distant ghost clap, and then it just builds and builds towards this really clever finale where this demonic entity is in the final thralls of trying to take over Carolyn Perron. And there's characters frantically, you know, doing all they can to stop it by grabbing people's legs. And there's stuff going on in different rooms. There's walls getting smashed in it. But we're like frogs in a pan in this film, kind of just boiling slowly. It really does rise in a really gradual way all the way through. And one thing I noticed about the story on the whole is just how nice all the characters are in this film. I mean, literally, it was really refreshing. I mean, how many times in films, and especially horror films, do you see scenes like this? Say, for example, a bunch of guys run into a house, they look out through the window, and one of them says, "I can't see him out there anymore." And then someone else will just go, "Oh, you think so, genius? Oh, you got x-ray eyes now? You can just see through all the trees?" You know, just somebody being a jerk for no reason. It's literally, it happens in so many films, but not in this film. Not at any point during the 2-hour runtime did anybody say anything like that to any other character. Everybody's just super nice, and it was really kind of pleasant to sit through. And there were several moments where I thought somebody was going to have that jerk moment, and they didn't. So like at the start, when the Perron daughters are being terrorised in their bedrooms at night. One of them screams and the parents run up the stairs, and I thought, oh, here we go. The parents are going to barge in and go, oh, cut this nonsense out. Go on, get back to bed. But no, they instantly believed their daughters with the story that they were telling. Later on, another example, Ed and Lorraine, when they're telling the parents that, no, this is not a simple haunting. This is an attempted demonic possession, and they're going to try and take over Carolyn. I thought there might be a bit of pushback at this point, and Roger would say something like, sorry, what are your rates again? Something like that. But no, instantly believed the Warrens. And that's how it is all the way through the film. Everybody just gets on with everybody perfectly. And it was quite interesting, actually. Even late on, when a cop turns up to help out, I thought, okay, here's the skeptical character coming in at the last moment. But no, he's straight on board with everything. Has no problems with the idea of hauntings and demons and things. So yeah, there was that. I'd say on the whole, I'm not sure if I'd call this my favourite movie in this whole series, but it's been quite a while since I've actually seen the others. So I think if I make this, have a bit of a run with these now, it'd be interesting to see. I definitely remember the second one being very good, but this is a good one to start with if you're new to the franchise and you want to kind of test the water to see if it's your thing, because this is regarded as one of the better ones. I think it's got something like 70-80% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think the further you go into things like The Nun and Annabelle, you find a lot of lower scores. I will mention Annabelle actually again because she's in this film, and I'd completely forgotten that she was in this film. And another thing that these films get criticised for is the fact that sometimes they can spend a lot of time world building, setting up future movies instead of just concentrating on the movie in hand, and that does happen in this film, sadly, which I guess is probably my only criticism of the film. In the beginning of the film, we see Ed and Lorraine tackling this other problem unrelated to the main plot, which is to do with Annabelle. But that's fine for a prologue. That's fine, getting to see this happen. But then later on, Annabelle comes back into one or two other scenes that are just pointless because we're already into the main story in Rhode Island by that point. We don't need to come back to the house in Connecticut where the Warrens live to see Judy, their daughter, get terrorised for one scene by Annabelle. It's just a bit pointless. And there's this other scene that's even worse. Ed's just randomly showing somebody around his artifact room where he keeps the Annabelle doll. And I thought to myself, what is this scene here for? It just does nothing, apart from, of course, to put Annabelle in your mind so you might have some interest in the spin-off. So, yeah, I think this is very much a modern movie problem. I think they're sort of getting a handle on it now, and listening to the criticism of some fans, because this is something that happens in the superhero films, DC films, Marvel, the last James Bond film. They tried to connect it to these other movies instead of just focusing on the movie in hand. So it has been a thing that's been cropping up in recent years, and I think probably 2013 when The Conjuring came out, it was right in the middle of a period where everybody was trying to set up future movies, and instead of just having these standalones. So I think that would be my only criticism of the movie. But on the whole, this is a really, really good film. Depending on, I could give this a really good score and it will still come down to whether this is your sort of taste. This is not a film that's very bloody or gory or has lots of kills. Let's just say it has a very low death count and leave it at that, by the way. But yeah, if you've never seen any of these, probably start with this one, I think. Right, let's have a look in the bag of terror. It's heavy. I thought it would be today. One more got stuck. One always gets stuck up the chimney. So we've got 4 bloody axes. That is an excellent score, and I thought that it would be something like this because The Conjuring is an excellent film, and I thoroughly recommend it. So who knows, maybe soon I will move on to the other films, but until next time, cheerio. Oh, and keep an eye out for my horror map location clip right at the end of this one, because I will be adding something in relation to the fact that this film took place in Rhode Island. Okay, so cheerio, bye-bye.